There are a few concepts of the article that we read, um, the philosophy document that I do use in my classroom. I found and two specifically that I found. The first one is the critical thinker. And I use that in my classroom a lot because now we are supposed to use higher level thinking skills. Although we were supposed to be using that, now they are really honing in on it now. I like when they talked about the healthy skepticism. In my classroom, I allow my students to be free thinkers. I want them to question stuff. I want them to ask why. We never got that chance to ask why. Why does this happen? Why did the author think like this? And I like that now they're producing questions that ask our readers, why do we think like this? I think the critical thinker is very reflective. They're very independent learners, and that's what we're wanting to produce now in this generation. And that's something that I use every day in my class. I want my kids to be able to think for themselves. Also, another concept that I use is not an intentional thing, and it's really not me using it, but I see it every day in my classroom is the idealist versus the realist. Some of my kids are an idealist. They have this world, this perfect view artistically, and then I have my realist, like it has to be backed up by something. Um, and I love to hear their discussions back and forth. And I'm usually the facilitator, which is what I have been liking in my classroom. I have those critical thinkers who's challenging those realists, like, well, why do you think that way? I like that. Something I found that I'm kind of opposed to say the least, I wouldn't really say opposed to, um, is just I'm not opposed to it, but I find it more challenging is the critic. I don't really like to criticize my students, um, but in a sense, I use that healthy, constructive criticism. I don't really like to call it that. And I liked how they put it in the article that they believe that this was improving themselves and their society by making them aware of their mistakes, which is kind of opposed to what I do in my classroom, which allows them to be critical thinkers and free of thought and free to research and free to think on their own. So I'm really opposed to the critic or the gadfly. Something that do see every day in my school and in my everyday life is the guardian. And not just me being the teacher, being the guardian. I have those students who are the leaders and they present themselves almost as bossy, like my own child does it herself. So I see that all the time. Um, I like how they use the words overseeing and they're directing. I like to use those students who have that leadership skill in them to be able to allow them to be the guardian in their groups. All students are not guardians, they're not nurturers, they're not leaders. Um, so that's something I see. And allowing the student to be the guardian is allowing them to be the teacher. And I really like that. Um, the article and chapter one kind of aligned with each other, especially the a curriculum philosophy for the gifted. The curriculum as developed of cognitive process really aligned with what I used in my classroom with the higher level thinking and the critical thinking in my classroom. I really, really hone in on that because not just for the sake of real life purposes, but those are the skills they use on those standardized tests that they're testing to see if our students are where they're supposed to be. So, this is what I got from the article, and thank you for listening and watching.